Description is started. Okay, you're all set.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Butkus, the Vice Chair of the Connecticut Historic Preservation Council, and I'm calling to order our October 4th, 2023 meeting. Attending this morning are the following council members: Beth Ackley, Vincenzia Aducier, Beth Burgess, myself, Paul Butkus, Marguerite Carnell, Tom Elmore, Leah Glazer, Andy Horowitz, Sarah Nelson, Deanna Rhodes, and Sarah Sportman. Quorum is therefore present. Review our format of public comment procedures. Our council's format and review procedures. Given the hybrid format of today's meeting, and for those who are visitors today, I want to review and explain our procedures. The order of presentations. I'll read each motion and ask for a motion to be moved and seconded. Staff will present the agenda item to the council. Council members will have an opportunity to ask questions. And if called upon by staff, a representative of the organization may offer statements or address council's questions. For members of the public who wish to speak on the agenda item, we ask that you identify yourself and your affiliation. After all questions have been addressed and statements made, a roll call vote will be taken. If members of the public have letters and/or written statements they wish to submit to the record, please email them to jonathan.kinney@ct.gov. That's JONATHAN.KINNEY@ct.gov. The Historic Preservation Council takes statements from members of the public, but just does not respond to questions. Lastly, please only address the particular agenda item being addressed at that time. And 3, the code of conduct. The Historic Preservation Council votes on matters which provide leadership, service, and economic benefit to property owners, consultants, local governments, and not-for-profit organizations. Given this responsibility and to maintain the highest professional standards in the discharge of our duties, it's important to maintain a strong code of ethics for all council members and department employees. In order to avoid possible violations of the Department of Economic and Community Development Ethics Statement, it's necessary for the council to be aware of any situations in which there's a real, potential, or apparent conflict of interest involving anyone here. Conflict or interest may occur when a public official's participation in agency matters results in personal financial gain. All council and staff have been provided with a copy of the Department of Economic and Community Development Ethics Statements and governing state statutes, and having reviewed them, today's agenda, members of council and staff are now asked to disclose any affiliations with entities or projects that may create a conflict of interest as defined by the agency policy pursuant to Connecticut General Statute I-79 through I-89, entitled Code of Ethics for Public Officials. Once disclosed, the member or staff may recuse themselves from that particular agenda item. Having read this statement, are there any council or staff members that would like to disclose conflict of interest to any of the items on today's agenda?
Yeah, I know, but
Who's speaking?
I don't know if that was anybody. Was that just somebody's mic catching noise, or was that somebody actually that had a conflict? Not hearing any
Not there.
conflicts?
Okay, none for the participants. I will recuse myself from item 5B3, which is the survey and planning grant for the Meriden Historical Society. I'm the treasurer and de facto facilities manager. I'll recuse myself from voting on that. If there are technical questions, however, since we don't have a representative from the Historical Society, I'm happy to answer any questions of a technical nature, but only if asked.
I'm sorry, is Councilman Elmore going to chair that particular portion of the meeting?
Tom Elmore will chair that portion.
Okay.
Okay. Hearing no other conflicts, we'll move on to our next item. Item 4, the review and approval of minutes and transcripts. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Marguerite, and do I have a second?
Beth Burgess.
Discussion. There were some comments from Marguerite that'll be incorporated. Was there anything substantive? Just edits? Does anyone else have any comments or revisions? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Beth Ackley,
I wasn't here, I'll abstain.
okay. Avi,
Aye.
Beth Burgess,
Aye.
I guess I will abstain as chairman. Marguerite, Elmore,
Aye.
Leah Glazer,
Aye.
Andy Horowitz,
I will abstain, please.
Sarah Nelson,
Aye.
Dee, Anna,
Aye.
and Sarah Sportman.
I was away, so I'll abstain.
So the motion carries. Now, moving on to our next item on the agenda, item 5B1. Survey and planning grant for East Avon Cemetery Association. Historic Preservation Council votes to award a survey and planning grant funded by the Community Investment Act of the State of Connecticut to the below listed applicant in the amount shown. All grant guidelines and state requirements shall be met by the below listed applicant on receipt of a grant as administered by the Department of Economic Community Development. Staff recommends the application for funding. The applicant, East Avon Cemetery Association, and the project geophysical survey for human burials at the East Avon Cemetery, dated 1821, 15 Simsbury Road, Avon, Connecticut, in the amount of $5,000. So motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
A second.
This is Sarah Nelson. I'll second.
Discussion.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So staff recommends approval of this application. These small grants for geophysical surveys for human burials are becoming very popular for cemetery associations to learn more about just missing information regarding past burials. We do recommend approval. Generally, or probably in every case, the applicant has worked with our staff archaeologists first to discuss the project, make sure it's viable and falls under these eligibility guidelines. Terry Wilson and Nora Howard are both here to answer any questions that I can.
I'll just ask the questions that actually applies to both this item and the next item. I didn't see the historic designation selected. Is that not a requirement, or is it just the difference?
It is not, I mean, sometimes these are locally designated properties or part of a district. However, because this is considered a survey, we don't require that they have designation, and we're hoping that the information gleaned might lead to a.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one other question was on the, just, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but
Mhm.
the two items have 1 acre being surveyed
Mhm.
for 5,000, and this first one is only 54-foot by 23-foot zone. And it's the same grant. I'm just wondering if they're able to survey a little bit more than just that small area with funds that.
I think if they find that necessary, yes, the parameters of the grants do limit the area to 1 acre. And most applicants are just asking for the $5,000 limit because they don't know until they've actually bid out the project. But yes, indeed, if they bid this out and they find that they can and need to do more area, then they certainly can do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other further questions from council members? I don't see any hands raised. And we're getting used to this online format. Try to look, yeah, I want to make sure, just going forward through the whole meeting today, that everyone that is remote, if you kind of raise your hand or scream out so we hear you. I don't want to miss anybody because I don't have headphones on, so I want to make sure that we get questions from everyone that's participating. If there are no further questions, we'll take a roll call vote. Beth Ackley,
Aye.
Dee,
Aye.
Beth Burgess,
Aye.
I will abstain. Marguerite Carnell,
Aye.
Tom Elmore,
Aye.
Leah Glazer,
Aye.
Andy Horowitz,
Aye.
Sarah Nelson,
Aye.
Deanna Rhodes,
Aye.
Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
Thank you all. The motion carries.
Thank you.
We wish you well.
Thank you, everybody.
Agenda item 5B2. The Historic Preservation Council votes to award a survey and planning grant funded by the Community Investment Act of the State of Connecticut to the below listed applicant in the amount shown. All grant guidelines and state requirements shall be met by the below listed applicant upon receipt of a grant as administered by the Department of Economic and Community Development. Staff recommends the application for funding. The applicant is the town of Reading, and the project geophysical survey for human burials at Lone Town Cemetery, 1815, at 171 Lone Town Road in Reading, in the amount of $5,000. Need a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Tom, second.
Sarah Nelson, second.
Marguerite beat you to it, Sarah. Gotta be quick on this hybrid format. Discussion.
Good morning again, everybody. Staff does recommend approval of this application, basically for the same reasons I cited for the last application. I don't believe Louise Wagner is on the call. She prepared the application, but I can try to answer any questions or concerns that you have.
Any questions from council? I don't see any. Agreed.
No, happy to.
Don't want to miss this. My peripheral view. Okay, go for a roll call vote. Beth Ackley,
Aye.
B,
Aye.
Beth Burgess,
Aye.
I will abstain. Marguerite Carnell. Thank you. Tom Elmore,
Aye.
Dave Glazer,
Aye.
Andy Horowitz,
Aye.
Sarah Nelson,
Aye.
Deanna Rhodes,
Aye.
and Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
The
Great.
motion carries. Thank you all, and hope they find good things. Item 5B3 is, I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Yep.
And trying to, I have no financial interest, so.
I don't think he needs to go,
You don't need to leave the room.
especially if he's going to be there to provide technical answers.
Okay.
Turn it over to Tom.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next item on the agenda is 5B3. The Historic Preservation Council votes to award a survey and planning grant funded by the Community Investment Act of the State of Connecticut to the below listed applicant in the amount shown. All grant guidelines and state requirements shall be met by the below listed applicant upon receipt of the grant as administered by the Department of Economic and Community Development. Staff recommends the application for funding. Applicant, Meriden Historical Society. Project, consulting services of a qualified architect/engineering team to assess building envelope and recommend best implementation of HVA system for the Meriden Historical Society building dated 1923, located at 41 West Main Street in Meriden. Grant amount of $19,000. May I have a motion to move this to the table for discussion?
So moved, Beth Burgess.
And a second?
Second, Sarah Nelson.
All right, and a discussion.
Great, thanks. So staff recommends approval of this application. I think this is the first one we've gotten from Meriden Historical Society, so that's always exciting to get a new applicant. I just want to clarify that, and it's probably further clarified in the application itself, that this is the society is more in the design development phase. They've assessed the building. They kind of know where they want to go as far as implementing a new HVAC system. The deliverable is going to be not construction drawings yet, but around the design development phase. Dr. Virginia Jewell could not be in the meeting, and Paul has recused himself, so I'll try to answer any questions that you have.
I
Any
have a
questions from council
question.
members? Yep.
I do have
Go
a
ahead.
question, and maybe a comment, I don't know. What are some of the, are there any specific concerns around the building envelope that that this project might address or look at?
From the narrative, the main concern, well, the reason for the HVAC system is to institute better, humidity levels and climate control for the collection. And I know that very often, council still needs to make sure that any work done on the building both serves the building itself and the collection. Structurally, I believe if they're going to install a roof unit, I think they anticipate needing a new roof to support that. In general, the building is in good condition, except for the bulging wall that's mentioned, but they are addressing that. If that's
So-
what you meant.
So, well, that just leads maybe just to a bit of a comment and caution, and if Paul's involved in this at all, I'm sure he's on it, but a lot of times, there's an inherent discourse between maintaining humidity levels and HVAC systems and, any kind of historic masonry wall or wood wall. So I would just caution to make sure there's a deep understanding of the need for moisture flow through the wall, and that, it's not always possible and sometimes harmful to maintain maybe traditional museum humidity levels in an historic building. And if you start building an interior, if the recommendation ends up to be building in a sort of an interior enclosure, that can be problematic too. So there's just all sorts of twists and turns when you're looking at this. So just to be mindful of it.
Yeah, agreed and duly noted. We have funded a few similar projects to this, and it's always our caveat, especially if the building never has had an HVAC system,
Right.
that we be careful not to introduce something like this that's going to, hermetically seal it and then cause other problems that we don't even know.
Right.
However, Paul is a qualified historic architect, so I am confident as well. But
Yeah.
We will also have a chance to review the documents to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the outcome.
Awesome. Thanks.
Beth Burgess, I see your hand is up.
Yes, thanks, Tom. Sort of echoing what Beth Ackley just said, the discourse between a historic building and the collections environment and trying to make things and ranges strict is probably not in the best interest of historical society for various reasons, including financially sustainable reasons. I would urge you to look at the NEH and FAIC's new report called Held in Trust, where they discuss climate action plans. And that's going to be a program moving forward for accredited museums, at least, will be required to have them. So there's a loose framework right now for that, but it's not detailed yet. So just bear in mind, we're talking about it here at the Stowe Center about, strict ranges in various areas, depending what the collections are, and its long-term sustainability. So just something to add to the conversation.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Beth. Leah, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, just if we could just add, it's probably big, but attach the National Register nomination just to contextualize this better and justify, its importance.
Yeah. I will. I need to start making that a requirement because sometimes they do submit it and then if they don't, I forget to ask them. But I can easily pull that myself and attach it if they don't. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit about it, but I still think it's important to understand why it's a district, to get to it's obviously it's somewhat architectural architecturally important. It's part of a district, but I know all districts have historical importance. And so just to, justify the price tag and keep that on the minds of, everybody if they're looking into it, why it's important to keep this building maintained.
Any other questions from council members?
I have a question. Sandy.
Sure, go ahead.
And this is just part of my climbing up the learning curve, really, but I noticed there's $2,000 here in administrative support to kind of administer the work here, and I can't quite recall if that's usual or not.
We do allow for 10%. Oh, I'm getting some feedback. Can you mute yourself? Okay. We do allow for 10% of the grant amount to go towards admin expenses, but they have to be actual dollar expenses. So at the end of the project, with the reimbursement request, we need receipts. We need to know exactly where that money was spent. It can go to pay personnel costs to administer the project because they have to write the RFP, interview, oversee the bidding and all of that. But they still have to track their hours and their hourly rate and all of that. So it's not just an overhead actual expense figure, which may or may not.
Thank you for explaining that. That makes perfect sense. And my thought was just, and maybe I just haven't noticed it before, but this was a good resource. And I hope that everybody is aware that they're able to get supported in the time they spend on the projects that we're funding. I don't know if that's clear to everybody.
You know what? I need to check the guidelines and make sure that it is clear. I think we mentioned it, but if not, I'll put it in there.
Great, Andy, thank you. Any other questions from council members or comments? All right, hearing none, seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote to approve the application. Beth Ackley?
Aye.
Via Ducier?
Aye.
Beth Burgess?
Aye.
Paul's recused. Marguerite Carnell? Jonathan, I can't hear Marguerite. And I don't see her.
She voted aye.
Okay, thank you. I will abstain. Leah Glazer?
Aye.
Andy Horowitz?
Aye.
Sarah Nelson?
Aye.
Deanna Rhodes?
Aye.
And Sarah Sportman?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Paul, I hand the baton back to you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, we're moving right along. We are now on item 6B1. So we have a state register nomination for Blackman Shelton Farmstead at 112 Barn Hill Road, Monroe, for the State Register of Historic Places. Historic Preservation Council votes to list the Blackman Shelton Farmstead located at 112 Barn Hill Road, Monroe, to the State Register. Could a motion to bring to the table?
I'll make that motion, Deanna Rhodes.
Yeah, second.
You, discussion?
Good morning, everybody. Marina Wisniewski, State Register Coordinator. Staff recommends approval of listing of the Blackman Shelton Farmstead located at 112 Barn Hill Road, Monroe, at the local level under Criterion 2 in the area of architecture, specifically for the 19th century barn outbuildings, which are described in the Historic Barns of Connecticut Survey context statements, Part 2 and 3, which was included in your shared file, and which cover the period from 1780 to 1930. There have been alterations over time to the property, mainly to the house, but they have been completed sympathetically, and the property retains its design, setting, feeling, and association of its late 18th century saltbox construction in a rural farm setting. You will notice that the nomination does make mention of the condition of the 1802 barn that's on the property. It is the owner's intention to should the nomination be approved today, to immediately apply to the homeowner tax credit program to make those necessary repairs, those necessary structural repairs to the barn. I don't know if Jordan Sorensen, who's the author of the nomination, is here. She was going to try and be here, but I will do my best to answer any questions you may have. Oh, and also I did receive some editorial comments from Marguerite. Thank you, Marguerite, last night.
Questions from Council, Beth Ackley.
Just a curiosity question, and I don't know if Jordan's not here, if anybody knows the answer, if you do, Marina, but in the blacksmith shop, the photos just sort of show a lot of storage in there. Are there any remnants of actual blacksmith infrastructure on the inside?
You mean like maybe related to the Greenleaf House in Norwich, goldsmith shop? No, unfortunately there isn't anything like that, like a hearth or something. It's
Okay.
based on just based on research.
Okay,
Just record research,
All right.
primarily secondary sources.
awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that this was a candidate for the state register and not the national register because of integrity issues.
Yeah.
and being built.
Yes, it was primarily because of the integrity issues, and also because this is exactly one of the properties that is an excellent candidate to be listed under that barn context. You know, at the time that the barn context was completed, I'm sure Todd can tell you the exact number, but it was hundreds of barns that were added to the state register under this context when it was new. But it's important to remember that we do have this tool to use to designate properties like this, and this was a perfect fit property.
Leah.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, so I guess, I mean, this might not be relevant if it's going under clearly architecture as opposed to historical context, but I was just wondering a couple things about the history of this farming in this particular area. I was wondering if there could be just a little bit more, and this is mainly just for documentation purposes, little bit more about the specific weather events, just understanding more about that and the impact on the economy, like what kind of weather events were they? I think it was probably a hurricane, but it's also unclear whether the farm was I'm assuming it was somewhat commercial. It's a single.
Yeah, I think it was more of like, you know, those small 100-acre farms that were typical. Yes, and you are correct that it's only being listed under 2, primarily because it fits so well within the context and also because the expediency of the work, and, you know, you only need to list 1, you don't need to list it for more.
Okay.
Jordan did provide a nice historical context, and she did add some very interesting data about how those weather events really transformed the economic commerce of this area. I can see if she has any more information that she couldn't add into it at the time, and see if she could add that basically more in the historic context. But I think right now,
make or break in terms of significance. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, and I, you know, I did, that was my instruction to tell her, you know, you only need to do 1, and so we would put it under 2. But again, of course, if you'd like some more additional information, we could do that.
Do you know if she looked into whether they had, I mean, it's the early 1800s, any enslaved people helping out on the farm? Like, I'm not, how big, you know, how big of a.
No, I
they were doing
don't know. I don't know if she had made a reference to any enslaved individuals, but I will make that as a note to see if that could also be added.
Yeah, these are just a really good opportunity to start recording that information. Yeah. It's an excuse to do it. And yeah.
And especially in these types of properties.
Right.
Any additional questions?
I'll just add very quickly to Leah's point that I guess you're referring to whatever, that there was a widely known big hurricane in 1815. So it may be as easy as simply name checking the thing that here is only oblique, but is known to all of us.
Thank you very much.
Tom, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, you know, building off of what Leah was referring to, I'd be interested to know a little bit more about the farm workers who were housed there. who were they? How many were they? How long were they there? The year frame. I'm intrigued by that statement that they were there. The other thing is there any Native American history on the site that can be shared publicly? And I know that's a toughie, a sticky question, whether it exists and if we make it public or not. So I'm not mandating that it be if there's anything, because I understand the significance of it, but that's just curious to me. And then also, with regard to the families, there's no discussion about family size, children, wife, women. And I'm just wondering if any of that information exists and can be added.
Yeah, so I will ask Jordan if she has, because she did do additional background work, but again, this is being listed under 2 for architecture, so that material is, would be in this context bonus. Some of it would be outside, the period of significance, under the barn typology. So, I'm happy to have her look into that and we can add it to the historic context. But right now we are listing it for architecture. So I think if she's already done the research, I think that's fine. But I don't think what we're advocating for here, what I'm advocating for here is an additional area of significance. I think here we are perfectly fine with under the barn context, but we can certainly see if she's already done that, especially for either enslaved individuals, if there was an instance of indigenous within that period of significance that the buildings exist, and really maybe a little more fleshing out of the type of agricultural work and just making a note of the hurricane of 1815. Thank you, Andy. And yeah, I think that's doable.
Great, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
And Marina, just, again, using these types of nominations just as an excuse without obviously, going down rabbit holes or anything. But they just kind of serve as an example of how to write these local histories. And, we've been, in terms of the Native American comment, just acknowledging the land before it was a farm. Just a quick, like who was here and what was here, very general. Just as maybe something that could just be a regular automatic thing as opposed to perpetuating the idea that history started with the colonists.
No, and I agree. This is a different conversation for not for the HP for the monthly HPC meeting, but there was at certain times in National Register nominations where it really starts with prehistory and it works its way forward. There were, in New York where I used to work, that used to be a staple. They had kind of moved away from it to make shorter, more technical documents. But I think that your point of it should be the knee-jerk reaction is to check sources, the typical sources that a researcher would start with should include references to pre-contact period or things like that to make sure that they have a good, well-rounded understanding before they start writing. And I think that having those as their, really as their starting point of when they begin their research, I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think that, I think having them at least having that information would be helpful. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
Tom, your hand is still raised. Is that just the holdover from before? Thank you. I have one question just about eligibility for funding.
Yes.
Is there a specific program that will help with
Yes.
outbuildings? Because I thought the historic homes rehabilitation tax credit would not apply.
No, it applies to outbuildings as long as you are doing work to the main structure as well. So yes, they are eligible. Tell your friends.
Just want to make sure there wasn't a limitation.
No, there's
But they have to be doing something on the main structure as well. It can't just be for the.
It can't just be for the outbuilding. They do have to do some sort of component to the main structure.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to the roll call vote. Beth Ackley,
Aye.
Dee,
Aye.
Beth Burgess,
Aye.
abstain, Marguerite, Tom Elmore,
Aye.
Leah Glazer,
Aye.
Andy Horowitz,
Aye.
Sarah Nelson,
Aye.
Anna Rhodes,
Aye.
Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is item 7.1, local historic district properties study reports. Pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, section 7-147 Q subsection C, the Historic Preservation Council votes to recommend approval of the proposed ordinance and boundary for the proposed 9 Waterville Road, Farmington, Connecticut, was presented in the study report transmitted by the town of Farmington on August 29th, 2023. A motion to bring for discussion. Anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Then Marguerite seconded. She's quiet in the corner here. Discussion.
Hi, everybody. Just for the edification of newer members of the council, these local historic district or property study reports come to the Historic Preservation Council for comment. It's not like a state register nomination where you're voting to list it. These are allowed for under state statute. And as the motion indicates, the role of the council is to recommend the boundary and ordinance or approval of the boundary and ordinance. So it seems kind of limited, but you're also invited and encouraged to make any other comments you have about the report, any suggestions to improve it. Garrett Daigle with the planning department in Farmington is here to answer any questions I can't. The result of these reports is that they're attached to a local ordinance and come under the purview of an historic district commission. And that commission only has purview over changes to architectural features that are visible from a public way on the exterior. So there's no interior shots of the building because they don't come under purview. I will say that if they're going to make this a matter of record, they should have better exterior shots because you can't really see how the building looks right now. And if they're going to be making decisions on certificates of appropriateness, they need to be familiar with what the building actually looks like in case there's a change that would affect its appearance. So that's my comment, but are there any other comments? Sorry, Paul, I took your line.
That's okay. The review of the ordinance is just the modification to add this one property, so
Yeah,
we're not
yes.
really getting into.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't have to do
Anything
meets
else?
and bounds and legal, yeah, no, just the.
And any questions from council members? Trying to see if everybody's hands are raised. I guess for the town, are there other properties that are going to be in consideration because it's getting to be a little bit spotty? It's, not continuous.
Right. Especially in this section of Farmington, I think this is in Unionville. They are progressively adding individual properties. However, I believe this one is contiguous to a previously listed property, which kind of makes it a district. So that's sort of I'm not a land use lawyer or a planner, so I don't know how that affects the ordinance, but once we get an amalgam, a conglomeration of properties, it kind of becomes a district, which I think is what they're trying to
Just
do.
like to the south, there was a large
Yeah,
contiguous section, and this is hopping over one of the main roads adjacent to another listed
yeah.
parcel, but there are gaps.
Yes, there are gaps. The purpose of the local ordinance is for the town to decide, what's historically or architecturally significant and what they want to see preserved, because as local designation is really the best protection against demolition or inappropriate changes to properties. And I believe the original district was way larger when it was proposed, and it did not meet the ballot requirements. And so the district shrank, the original, and now Farmington, as they get owners asking to be added, this is how they're doing it. It's not ideal, but it's they can do it that way.
And this doesn't necessarily make them eligible for any SHPO funding.
Not now. Yeah, it used to be that anything that received a favorable outcome from the council was automatically listed on the state register. But we stopped that. That policy was ended about 4 years now ago. Yes, 4 years ago. Thank you. Yeah.
Any questions from council members?
A comment.
Comment from Marguerite? Speak up. Yeah.
As Mary pointed out, we have one photo of the building. And so I just wanted to clarify what style we're listing. The heading here says colonial revival, and then it was subsequently described as a bungalow or farmhouse with aspects of the craftsman style, shingle style. And while maybe an eclectic building, maybe we could clarify that, just a little bit for the record.
No, I totally agree. And I think that the significance of this property is more historical and because this was the product of a local developer. So, but yeah, I also, maybe colonial revival, but I don't see any craftsman or bungalow, but yes, yeah, I'll ask them to do more clarification. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I guess we can move to roll call vote for approval. Beth Ackley,
Aye.
Dee,
Aye.
Beth Burgess,
Aye.
I will abstain. Marguerite Carnell,
Aye.
Tom Elmore,
Aye.
Leah Glazer,
Aye.
Andy Horowitz,
Aye.
Sarah Nelson,
Aye.
Anna Rhodes,
Aye.
and Sarah Sportman.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Now I will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the report on State Historic Preservation Office from Jonathan Kinney, item 9.
Hey, Jonathan, you guys are frozen.
It's too short.
Yes. Oh, no.
Yep.
I mean, I've got it on my computer, but I don't know if that's gonna, I'm not hearing anything.
Tell everybody that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, great track.
We got 80% of the way through, more than that.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, right? Yeah. And you could hear okay on Teams? Good. That's what I need. Oh, good, good. Awesome. You got it. Okay, go. It'll focus on you, yeah.
Thanks for the link to the 1816 thing.
Oh, I
Andy.
can hear people. Okay. Hello, everybody. We're just trying to reboot. Okay, great.
Sorry about that, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. My computer crashed. Okay, let me get my report going here. Yeah, right. Let me just go find that now. Very good. Where did it go? All right, I'm going to do this on the fly without my notes because they have disappeared. So I have 3 quick things to talk about with you guys. The first is I just wanted to give you a quick update on our GIS analyst position, which I mentioned at our August meeting. Right after our last meeting, we had interviews with the final candidates, a final group of candidates. Interviews went really well. We currently have an offer out to a candidate. We are just waiting to hear back, so it's very exciting. This will be the person that will come in and administer and maintain our new Congress system. So we hope within the next week or 2, we'll be able to make a very exciting announcement on that front, and stay tuned for that. The second thing I had is I just wanted to share very briefly that SHPO has begun working with an organization known as the CT Data Collaborative. They are nonprofit and they work with organizations to help them utilize, take advantage of, and plan based on the data that the organization collects. So we're currently in phase 1 of what is going to be basically a strategic plan for our data. We collect a lot of data here at SHPO, but we've never really been good at sort of doing it systemically and analyzing it and using it to our advantage. So that's the goal here, is to really take the data that we generate, that our partners generate, that we, the legacy data we have, and really put it to use in accomplishing some of our goals, asking the right questions that we need to be asking. And I suspect it will be really helpful as we move into our statewide planning efforts as well. And then the last thing I had was I just wanted to thank you all for your involvement in today's hybrid format. I apologize for the technical difficulty, but it went pretty smoothly. We got through most of the meeting. So I wanted to just put out there to council whether or not we wanted to have the availability to do this every month. If we wanted to do hybrid every other month, this is really just sort of an open discussion for council. Do we want to do a quarterly hybrid? The other piece I wanted to add to that discussion is I think we should, at the next meeting in November, I will prepare a preliminary calendar for next year's meeting dates, so we can go over that and to avoid any conflicts with holidays like we discussed this year. So I'll put together a rough draft of that and I can share it at the November meeting. We can discuss it, see if there's any changes that need to be made. And then if we need to, we can come back and finalize it at the December meeting. But does anybody have any thoughts on having the hybrid availability for each meeting? I'm happy to do it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How is it for you all sitting in the room interacting with those that are not in the room? Is it detrimental? Like, how does it feel?
No, it's fine. We're sitting here with my laptop in front of us, but unfortunately, the room we typically use for this type of meeting was booked today for a Department of Education meeting. But there are a couple other rooms in the building that have large screens on the walls, so you can hear the people talking through the device that we're using, but you'd also be able to see the people that are participating remotely. So it's been fine on our end. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts or comments, but Paul, how was it for you?
I think I just have to make an effort to make sure that I see everyone that's attending remotely, so I don't miss anyone. And so your assistance in helping me make sure that I see you or hear that you have a question is greatly appreciated. That's just a little bit of challenge. I think we can hear fine, and it's nice to be able to see on a screen, who's participating.
Of course.
I appreciate the option because I have a department meeting the first Wednesday of every month at 12:15. So when it used to only be in person, it was always a little stressful challenge to make it in time to be. So this is helpful.
I'm in exactly the same boat with the first Wednesday faculty meeting at 12:15.
Okay.
I appreciate the option too. If I can make it, I'll come.
Okay, I mean, we're here on Wednesdays anyway, so I'm happy to provide the option. We can just set up in this room and then, you know, every week, every month, I'll ask who's gonna be coming in person and hope we can get more people here because it's really nice actually being in the same room with folks. We have some good discussions, so. All right, so right now I will plan to just sort of have this availability going forward. And like I said, I will put together a draft schedule for next year's meetings. And I'll get that to you in anticipation of the November meeting, so we can discuss that. And that's all I had. I'm going to turn it over to, I'm going to hand it back to Chairman Buckus. Thank you.
All right, our next item 12 is the report of the museum properties from Liz Shapiro. Hopefully. I'll.
Okay, let me see if I start talking. Does it work?
It should focus on you, yeah.
Okay, and, well, I can always move if it doesn't, but, I will start off by saying it's October. And that's really exciting because that means only 1 month for the museum seasons. And then we will be at our close. It has been a very busy year and I will just sort of make a blanket statement because I work, you know, I'm involved with a lot of other museums. And that is that museums had really good summer attendance. And many of those who have been texting me and emailing me have said that their summer attendance this summer was even better than the summer of 2019. So it's very interesting for me to see. We will know more about when we compile the data that we're collecting from the summer at the museums program. But that's what we're seeing. That trend seems to be happening at our 4 museums as well. So let me give you a little bit of an update of what's happening. So some really interesting things, and I'll go museum by museum. So the first thing is at Old Newgate. Really exciting. Kathy Labadia, Marina Wisniewski, and Jonathan, and myself, and Jody Paulsgrove, and Morgan Bangle, all were at the museum. I think it was just last week. And what we did was we toured Beats Tavern. And the reason that we toured Beats Tavern was we want to get a sense of what are the best ways to approach the creation of an RFP for this federal grant that we received for $750,000 for the semi-quincentennial. That money will allow us to begin the sort of second stages of rehabilitation. The first stages were completed back before the pandemic, but at the end of this stage, we will be able to use the building. That's the goal. It may not be all beautiful inside, but we will be able to have people in the building and talk about what needs to happen because the building will be safe for public use. So that is really exciting. You know, when you have this bucket list of things and you begin to see them actually ticked off and you think, oh, I may retire someday and this might actually be done, check, feels really good. So that's exciting. And then we're currently waiting for, I feel like I said this at the last meeting, which is embarrassing because that was August, but I'm not the one embarrassed, but we are still waiting for the revised drawings of what the first phase of stabilization will be for the 4-story cell block. We're supposed to receive these by the end of the week. And there's a variety of reasons for the project delay. But one of the things we're excited about is that through Kathy and through some of our other friends and family, extended friends and family, we've been able to pull in some long-term advisors and consultants who are there to be at the table with us and help this project get back on track. And that includes Jack Glassman, who is a historical architect, who I'm sure some of you might know, who has consulted on projects at Newgate in the past. He's brought in colleagues of his own, and together, I think we have worked to help shape up what could be the plan for this basically $500,000 of preservation money for this project. It is a big deal, and one of the things that I think we're all walking away with is, yes, ruins are ruins, and as Jack said, ruins are never considered to be stable, no matter what you do to them. They are still ruins. So that's kind of it was a big shift in the way we were thinking, the way I was thinking, really. So it's been extremely helpful. So thank you. The contract was approved to have the mine inspected for safety finally, and we've only been working on trying to do this for 5 years. So thank you finally to the AG's office who has come to terms with sort of the weirdness of when you hire someone to inspect a mine for safety, not a thing that you normally do. And I think that that will happen in the spring, just because we do have to close the mine for a variety of safety constraints, and also to be respectful of the bat population that lives in the mine, that we can't really disturb from the end of October till the beginning of April for sure. And then if you really want something fun to do, you may have seen it on the news, because a lot of the news stations have given it really good coverage. Light into the Dungeon is at Old Newgate now, and that's 360 hand-carved jack-o'-lanterns lit up through the dungeon, which allows us to have a Halloween event in the space, but it also allows us to not make light of how the space was used as basically a prison dungeon. And we were there when we went with SHPO, and we saw it, and it was amazing. And this year's events add lights and sound. And I would like to just give a shout out to the folks that we work with who bring this exhibit in, because they made no money off the event last year. They knew they would make no money off the event last year, but they so wanted to have us have the event that they actually helped us make it better and added things this year. And hopefully they'll have a little bit of a return on their investment this year. We're sure that they will have some return on their investment, but the place is so cool. People love it. Then at Eric Sloan, unfortunately, last week's rain caused some roof leaking at the museum, which required gutter cleaning, identified all kinds of roof, I'm looking at Kathy when I say this, all kinds of roof shingle deterioration, and the needs of immediate flashing, which was not done correctly when the roof was replaced. I don't even go there. So no collections items were affected by this water, but Andrew Rowan, our curator there, is now an expert at what happens when you have to clean out a gutter. Like there was no leaves, and then a day later there was complete leaves, and then there was torrential rains. And when there's no flashing, he was actually bending old metal signs from the parking lot to create a flashing situation there, which in fact, one of the contractors that we work with, not in a contracting capacity, but he is a historic restoration architect and contractor, said that will do the trick in a pinch, and we'll hold it until we can actually get it repaired. So, so that was exciting. Working collaboratively with Deep to finally get the possible expansion of the visitor railroad experience that the Connecticut Antique Machinery Association offers, settled legally as to who can do what when. And it's I will say it is very interesting when you have a railroad going across your property that you do not own, and that it's a big old mess. But and it was done in a very organic way over many, many, many years. So we're going to actually get it straightened out, and I'm very excited to be working with my colleagues on that. And then really exciting is this is the first time the museum is actually bringing in a painting on long-term loan just for a year that's by Eric Sloan. It is entitled Closed for Winter. It's an old stone barn. It's a fairly large painting. It's coming in, will be in the museum from basically December this year to December next year. And it's a loan from the owner with the idea that if this all goes well, that this will become a gift to the museum. It is probably the best Eric Sloan painting that has ever been displayed if you're looking at artistic merit at the museum. And the owners have been amazing to work with. It's been held at a museum in Wisconsin. They have been amazing to work with because they're arranging with us the transport. So we've actually gotten a lot of ducks in our row in terms of how you work with this kind of a long-term loan. So that's exciting. And then still lots of events, Ironworks tours this weekend and blacksmith demonstrations, and then Touch of Trade on October 21st. And then the Henry Whitfield Museum, we have the new exhibit on archaeology that's in the Visitor Center. It's finally completed. And the moral of the story is when college students take on doing an exhibit, it actually takes longer to do. So not surprising, but it is really, really nice. The museum hosted Welcome Fest on Saturday, September 9th, and tons of vendors and other state agencies actually contacted us to be there. It was a great event. SHPO was there, not a lot of attendance. So we're going to look at what that means, why the attendance wasn't there. And maybe think this would be the third year next year, 3 years of charm. and look at who an appropriate partner might be to actually present that with, to augment the attendance. But it is a new thing, and so we're good at, trying new things. We have to allow the time to sort of saturate the market. And then the contract was approved by the AG's office for the restoration and rehabilitation work that's going to be funded by Whitfield semi-sesquicentennial grant of $500,000. And so SHPO is going to be there on Friday for a walkthrough with the contractors, and that's exciting. And then at the Prudence Crandall Museum, the new exhibit that I've been talking about has been installed pending a few damaged panels, which usually happens. So people have seen it. 105 people were there on Canterbury's Old Home Day on September 30th. People liked it. They really enjoyed learning more about the site than they would get from the tour, because the exhibit goes into a lot of depth on the story. But since the museum closes in October and we're a little behind schedule with that exhibit, we're not going to do a hard push on opening it until the spring. And then finally, due to unforeseen circumstances, we've been obliged to postpone the press event and the conference on looking at Prudence Crandall, the symposium that was happening on November 4th. But again, I think that will help us tee the new exhibit opening up a little bit better in the spring. So it's not a tragedy. It's just the way life happens sometimes. So really exciting things. This has been a really banner season in terms of the museums. It's been a banner last two and a half years in terms of receiving federal funding. And those funds are allowing us to move forward with some really amazing projects. So I'm very, very proud of this staff. It's really exciting. Done.
Thank you, Liz. Any questions for Liz or Jonathan? No? Okay. Moving right along. Is there any new business anybody wants to bring up? No hands raised. Moving to item number 15, liaison with public and private agencies. Do we have?
Oh.
No.
Can I announce, can I have since I'm a public agency, can I remind people that I forgot. The Connecticut Archaeology Fair is taking place on Saturday, October 14th, 10 to 4 p.m. at the Henry Whitfield State Museum. And the last, this fair was actually at Old Newgate for 2 years in a row. 1 year, 2 years, I think. 2 years. So please feel free to come out and join us. Everybody who's attends it is blown away by what they learn and experience at this. So
Thank you. I see Jane is here, so turn it over to Jane.
Yes, thank you, Liz. That was on my list. So the archaeology
Thank
fair.
you,
And there's going to be food trucks and hands-on events for kids, and it is a great day. So if you haven't been out to the Whitfield Museum lately, or if you've missed any of our fairs, or are a big fan of archaeology fairs, please come out and join us. That's going to be a great day. Just two other quick announcements. This afternoon at noon, we're starting up our Talking About Preservation virtual chats again. And today we're meeting with the Connecticut Main Street Center. They're launching a new initiative called the Main Street Accelerator. And Preservation Connecticut will be a partner with them, doing some trainings for Main Streets who are working on specific challenges and helping them with some technical assistance with those challenges as well. So we're going to hear from them as they launch that initiative. Other talks this month will be about the Connecticut Green Book project that we worked on with interns. We'll have a chapter about making historic houses more livable. And then our last one, the week of Halloween, will be something spooky and fun to share with everyone. And then Saturday, November 4th, we'll be doing an in-person Talking About Preservation. We're going to be at the Dudley Farm from 1 to 3 and touring their site and hearing about their preservation challenges and some of the interesting things they have going on there. And then I also want to give a shout out to the SHPO for helping us update our LHD website, our Local Historic District Commission website. We relaunched it earlier this month. It looks great. Mary helped us with updating a lot of the content. It's much more user-friendly, much more attractive, a lot easier for people to reach out to circuit riders directly for trainings and questions. So if you have a chance, check out lhdct.org. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Do you have anybody else that's to join us?
I don't believe so.
No. Public comments, if anyone from the public is attending. There is anyone? And barring any other further discussion, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Beth Burgess.
Second,
Thank you,
Leah.
Beth. Julia, and please, send me comments, or me and Jonathan, about this format and your thoughts about moving forward. We're happy to, continue the conversation, up through next meeting and see what the feeling of the group is, whether it's all the time, quarterly, however you want to do. Feel free to send all of those comments along. With that, meeting is adjourned, and our next meeting will be Wednesday, November 1st.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See ya.